Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, and I wish you a very, very, very happy baby massage day. Keep Diddy far away from today's show. Today, Ohio State has landed another commitment in the transfer portal. We will talk about that on today's show. A lot of chatter over the last couple days about the Buckeyes picking someone up, and it is finally officially official. Yesterday it was officially official. Today it's publicly officially official. So we will talk about that pickup here today and how it affects Ohio State moving forward. Not just the fit of this player, Brandon Noel, but we'll talk about where Ohio State goes from here. And is this roster, as it's currently constructed, already better than next season's? I'll talk about that later on in the show. Encourage you, as always, to follow wherever you are on the socials, on X, on Instagram, at The Shop Pod. You can follow there and get a bunch of content as the days go on with the transfer portal. And if you want more content than that, even if you're truly an Ohio State basketball sicko, you can go to viewsfromtheshoppodcast.substack.com. Again, that's viewsfromtheshoppodcast.substack.com to get some more content on the Buckeyes. You can sign up for a paid subscription there to get even more info. You knew a lot what was going on behind the scenes if you're there on the paid subscription. If you're curious too, so here's the thing. I've told you already, I will give you a free trial there. You can take it, just ask. DM me on Instagram, DM me on X. My DMs are open. And just send me a message. I will get you there for free. Then you can try it. I know there's people talking. People are talking and they're wondering, is Views from the Shop podcast a real source? We don't know. Get there for a week, and you can figure it out for yourself, and you can be there for free for that free week trial on the paid subscription on Substack. I don't know what we've missed on so far this portal season. I don't know. I don't know if there's been anything we've missed on, actually. I could be wrong. Doesn't mean I have every single scoop, but hey, just be advised, all right? That's all I'll say. So thanks for being here today. Let's talk about the Buckeyes' newest commitment. That newest commitment is a Wright State transfer, Brandon Noel, who comes into the Buckeyes after 3 seasons with the Raiders, of course, in Fairborn, Ohio, not that far away from Columbus. So we'll talk about Noel. We'll talk about his experience at Wright State, how he fits in at Ohio State, and then, of course, like I said, the roster at the end of the show, we'll talk about that as well. How does it compare to last season? Does Jake Diebler have a better, worse, the same roster? We will get into that. So, Brandon Noel chooses Ohio State. As far as we know, Ohio State, again, like I've said, they want 6 players who can start. That's what Jake Diebler wants, and this is probably the 6th player that can start for Ohio State next season. There was really strong mutual interest here from the get-go between Noel and Ohio State. Noel also heard from Virginia Tech and Minnesota, among others. Virginia Tech and Minnesota were 2 of the warmer schools in on Noel, but when that strong mutual interest bubbled up between the 2 sides, that being Ohio State and Noel, that's kind of where things went, and I think Noel probably stiff-armed the rest, kept them at arm's length, and said, I'd like to go to Columbus. Again, he's a Chillicothe, Ohio native, played at Wright State for 3 years. I was told on Sunday afternoon, if you're in the Substack, you received this message, keep your phone handy. That's what I was told on Sunday afternoon after checking in to see if anything new happened over the weekend. And again, the timing for this, if you're curious about this, here's the context. So Brandon Noel was planning to sign with Ohio State on Sunday evening. Some more details had to get ironed out. They didn't get everything finished up. So because of that, the signing was pushed until Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon comes, he signs. There was going to be a day gap. I don't know why. I asked why. I didn't get an answer. Well, I got an answer, and the answer was, it's just kind of how it works, whatever. So Noel was planning to sign on Sunday, get announced on Monday. Instead, he signs on Monday, is announced, of course, here today on Tuesday. I think personally, Noel, I know for a fact, Noel wanted to make sure that he could reach out to other coaches and other programs that had recruited him and make sure they're not shocked. He wants to not burn any bridges there with who recruited him because it's the right thing to do. I don't know any other reasons outside of that. Maybe it's just the way that it goes. So, Noel's experience at Wright State, very, very impressive here for the incoming rising senior, I guess I should say. So he averaged 19 points per game exactly last season for the Raiders and 7.7 rebounds. He comes in standing at 6'8" and 240 pounds. Good size, good length. He's a solid 6'8". He's not built like Kevin Durant. He's built like Brandon Noel. Shout out Fairborn. Shout out Wright State. He slashed at 55, 36, 74. So he shot 55% from the field, 36% from the three-point line, and 74% from the free throw line last season. He did that while taking 13.1 field goal attempts per game last season for Wright State. So the shooting, highly efficient, especially when you're taking three-pointers the rate that he did, shooting well above, a couple points above 50% from the field. You're absolutely going to take that. And again, he's doing that with a lot of shot volume as well. And the three-point shooting was there, like I said, 36% from deep last season. Excellent spot-up shooter, by the way. 54% effective field goal percentage when he is a spot-up shooter last season. That's 72nd percentile in college basketball. So no, really produced on the offensive end, a really good rebounder, great size that Ohio State is going to get in this wing player. Now the question is, what is Brandon Noel's fit in Columbus with Ohio State? That's what we'll get into next here. So number one, I would say above anything else, he is a smooth operator with the ball in his hands. Even with his size, he doesn't look clunky. He doesn't really get sped up. He had a 12.7% turnover rate last season for Wright season. That's 70th percentile in college basketball. So he took care of the basketball last year. But like I said, even with his size, he moves with coordination. He moves with balance. He can handle the ball. He can dribble. He can score on the drive. He can score from three. All of those types of things, but he's got great feel for the game, I would say, about Noel. And he can shoot off the dribble. He can drive. He can score. He can score in the paint as well. He can just straight up post up and get buckets as well. But all in all, this is a smooth type of player who kind of, I would say, lets the game come to him. And when it is time to attack, he will go there and he will attack. He's also highly skilled off the ball, I would say. So smarts are one thing. If you're a basketball player, it's important. Obviously, the skill is important, but when you can combine that, when you're a 6'8" player who can flash to the hoop and fill space, and that size, with that size, it really does a lot more for you than a smart guard who can flash to the hoop. You see it all the time. Guys flash to the hoop, you're 6'3", you can't get the pass in there. But if you can get the pass up 8-9 feet off the floor, and find a guy like Noel that's going to help you out. So he's skilled off the ball. I think he can be a good screener as well here in this Ohio State offense, just like Christoph Tilley, who came in last week from Santa Clara. Noel comes in again from a mid-major with big-time production and great size and ability to score at different levels, hit the three. And I think the pick and pop here is going to be something that Noel can do along with Christoph Tilley. Again, he's got a good frame. He's got a good thickly built frame, I would say, to where he can be a good screener for the Buckeyes in the pick and pop. Maybe the pick and roll as well, but especially in the pick and pop. And again, he doesn't only see open spots in the floor. He sees them, he flashes, he cuts, and he fills the opening with sophistication, with purpose, which I think we can appreciate as well, especially after seeing how Ohio State lacked a lot of that last season for the Buckeyes. And again, I keep talking about this. I continue to share a lot of things that you saw that you were frustrated with from Ohio State last year. I think Noel is going to fill that gap just in the same way Tilley will. And I think you've got mismatch potential here with Brandon Noel. So he's a 6'8" wing. Well, first of all, he's larger than most wings out there in college basketball. But as a shooter, as a slasher when he's posted up, just like Tilly. Again, he can score. He scored 1.1 points per possession when posted up last season. That's 87th percentile in college basketball last year. Those numbers very good. If you get him to the post with a player that's his size, maybe even a little bigger, but especially smaller, you would expect him to score there, post it up. And on the flip side, you get out to the 3-point line, you should be able to rise up with your height and your length and hit some threes as well, especially with some range. So I like the mismatch potential here with Brandon Noel playing out on the wing for Ohio State. Now, there are questions about his game, and two main questions. One would be defensively for Noel. So this is just, again, like Christoph Tilly. I keep bringing him up, but it is similar here where the question about Noel's defensive ability, the 19.5 defensive rebounding percentage last year, that's really good at 78th percentile in college basketball, but shot blocking ability and making splash plays, forcing turnovers, on ball defense, especially at the wing, maybe not a strong suit for Noel. The other thing I would say, the coaching staff would say as well, maybe some concerns about how his athleticism translates to high major college basketball as well. So those are some questions. Here's the good thing, though, with Noel. He averaged 34.5 minutes per game last season. And guess how many times he fouled out? 0. Shout out Sean Stewart. He did not foul out once, playing 35 minutes per game, almost, standing at 6'8", playing on the wing, sometimes playing down on the block, but he never fouled out. Sean Stewart is blushing. Devin Royal feeling a little antsy right now. Quez Glover walks away from Columbus and says, how can that be possible? I almost fouled out playing half those minutes this season. So there is that. But the defense, the athleticism is in question at this point. But all in all, this is a fantastic get. And I forgot to add one more thing here, and I'm going to have to pull this up. I think I posted this in my article on viewsfromtheshotpodcast.substack.com. But the starts number here for Noel, he has started in his career 90 games in 3 years at Wright State, played in 97, but started in 90 games for the Wright State Raiders. Again, what I told you from the minute the season ended, Ohio State was looking for starting center, starting wing. They need to have more size than what they had the previous season. They need to have proven production as starters wherever they were. They need to have that, and that's exactly what Ohio State has gotten now in Tilly and in Noel. So they check off those boxes there. Noel not only has been highly productive for Wright State, but he's played a lot of basketball. He's played a lot of minutes. He's started a lot for Wright State, and you can expect him to come in and have an opportunity to start at Ohio State moving forward. So, again, this is a big-time move, I think, for Ohio State. I really like the fit. I'm sure there's questions here about John Camden. I will address that now. My impression is that Ohio State is after this starting wing spot that was available for one of three guys. The first, of course, being Brandon Noel. You also have John Camden over at Delaware. And then you also had Bobby Durkin, who had been crystal balled from Davidson now to Minnesota. I know Ohio State liked Durkin, but for whatever reason, they have now chosen Noel as the guy who they want. They like the mutual interest, probably like that he's an Ohio kid, and so on and so forth. So Noel's here. I wouldn't expect at this point John Camden to end up at Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes are pretty much done there at the wing, unless something crazy happens or maybe a player transfers out. I still don't expect anyone else to transfer out. The 14 players you see on the roster here, I think that's pretty much it. We'll talk about, will it be 14? Will it be 15? That's been something that's been talked about a lot. Talk about that to close off the show. But one other thing I want to get to here before we get there, the roster as it stands right now. You compare year one for Jake Diebler to year two, and there's clear differences. Of course, you've got Bruce Thornton still on the roster. You've got John Mobley Jr. coming up now, improving as a sophomore. Devin Royal improving as a junior. So there's some constants. But the direction that this coaching staff went in this year, much, much different from last year. Last year, you went for Aaron Bradshaw. You went for Sean Stewart. You went for Quez Glovers, guys who maybe didn't really produce as much or produce at the lower level like Quez Glover did, had some potential, missed some time. Sean Stewart, Aaron Bradshaw, the five-star players who, quite simply, didn't pan out at Duke and didn't pan out at Kentucky. And Jake Diebler took a chance and hoped that those players would pan out at Ohio State. Stewart showed some growth over his first year. Looks like he'll be back as a junior now for the Buckeyes. For what it's worth, I'm recording this on Monday. Stewart may have already announced that he's staying at Ohio State. So if that does happen, well, he's staying. So you're good there. But regardless, a completely different direction, a 180 from the approach that we saw from the coaching staff last season. Now, let's take a look at the starters. So at point guard, it's going to be Bruce Thornton, believe it or not. Yeah, I would say it's pretty certain Bruce Thornton is going to start for Ohio State at point guard last year. Now, is that the same Bruce Thornton as last season, or is this an improved Bruce Thornton? I would venture to say, if you're going to get the same Bruce Thornton, worse Bruce Thornton, better Bruce Thornton, if I were to put my money on either, I don't care what the odds are, you're probably going to get a better Bruce Thornton as a senior than you had as a junior. So is there improvement there? Yeah, I would say probably so. And that's the same case for John Mobley Jr. So John Mobley Jr. projected to start at the 2 for Ohio State next season. Is he better as a sophomore than he was as a junior? Probably. Does he limit turnovers a little better? Does he distribute a little bit better? Does he become an even better shooter and better scorer inside? Pulling up, that's something that he really struggled with. Mid-range pull-up jumpers last season for Ohio State. John Mobley was not very good. I don't have the numbers on hand, but it wasn't good. Is that a place where he improves? You would hope so, and you would expect John Mobley Jr. to be better at the 2 this year than he was last year. Then at the 3, you had Micah Parrish. Micah Parrish was really good defensively. Struggled with fouls, so did everyone else on the team. Big deal. But you go from him to probably either Devin Royal or Brandon Noel. I'm going to talk about Devin Royal at the 3, Devin Royal at the 4. There's been a lot of talk about that from fans. I've gotten some information as well on this. But yeah, there's a chance that Devin Royal is going to play the 3 this year and start at the 3. Is that better than Micah Parrish at the 3? I don't know. Is Brandon Noel better at the 3 than Micah Parrish? I don't know, but there's definitely a chance. And it's not like either of those players are going to be worse at the 3. More bad at the 3. This is going to be a great sentence. More bad at the 3 than John Mobley Jr. and Bruce Thornton combined are going to be more good at the 1 and 2 this season. So I think you see improvement. At the 4 last season, you had Devin Royal, who was 6'6", starting at power forward in the Big Ten. You're moving to maybe Devin Royal, hopefully an improved Devin Royal at the 4, or Sean Stewart, hopefully an improved Sean Stewart at the 4 as well. Maybe Noel is the starting 4. I don't know. Royal the 3, Noel the 4. I don't know. But if either of those two guys are in the starting lineup, I think that's an improvement. Or I guess I should say if both those guys are in the starting lineup, I think that's an improvement from last season. And again, you're going from Sean Stewart starting at center last year, fouling, struggling mightily with fouls and to defend in the front court, to now looking at Stewart potentially, maybe an improved Stewart, or probably, and almost most certainly, Christoph Tilley. So that's your starting lineup. I think the starting lineup this upcoming season is better than last season's. Now you look at the depth. The 6th man last year was Evan Mahaffey. Based off of playing time low, minutes per game, it was Evan Mahaffey, average 18 minutes per game. That was the most outside of starters for Ohio State this season. Then you've got maybe Noel, maybe Stewart, maybe Tilley, maybe Royal. I don't know where that will all end up. The very much most likely player would be either Stewart or Noel coming off the bench as your 6th man. Is that better than Evan Mahaffey? Yeah, I would say so. And then your other role players. So you're removing Aaron Bradshaw. You're removing Quez Glover. Some guys who had nice moments. Aaron Bradshaw had that nice 12-point game against Washington. Didn't miss a shot from the field. But you're going from Bradshaw and Glover getting the most minutes off the bench to any combination of that 7th guy who could be Noel, could be Stewart, could be Gabe Cobbs, could be Ivan Negavon, could be Colin White, could be one of the freshmen, Amari Bynum, or Dorian Jones. I really, really think the role players, you get outside of that 6 players, 7, 8, 9, those players are where you're going to see a jump from Ohio State as well. So I think you've got improvement in the starting lineup. I think you've got improvement at the depth spot and then size as well. Again, I think I've said this on the show. Ohio State was the smallest team in the Big Ten last season. Go to Ken Palm, go to average height. No team was smaller than Ohio State. They were more small than any other team was big in the Big Ten. Like, you had 17 teams kind of within the top 100 or so, and then Ohio State is way down there. I don't remember if they were even outside of the top 200. I don't remember. They were far away from everyone else in the Big Ten. Way smaller. And if that's the case, this season, you look at no change between Bruce Thornton and John Mobley Jr., whatever. I don't care. Micah Parrish, 6'6". You're not getting smaller because Devin Royal, if he starts at the 3, is going to be 6'6". If not, by the way, Devin Royal, more bulk at least than Micah Parrish had coming into his junior season. And if it's Brandon Noel at the 3, he's 6'8". That's bigger automatically. Royal at the 4, again, 6'6". That would stay the same because he played the 4 last year. Could still be Royal. Could be Sean Stewart, who's listed at 6'9". Could be Noel, I suppose. I don't know. And then at center, you had Stewart last year at 6'9". Now you're moving to Tilly, I think, who will start there at the 5 at 7 foot. So you've got better size. You've got better depth. I think the starting lineup is better. And the last thing that I think is better here, call me a sunshine pumper, the ability to space the floor. Last year, you could not space the floor. With Sean Stewart at the 5, Devin Royal at the 4, Devin Royal sometimes played 3. You don't really believe in his ability to shoot the 3. I certainly never believed in his ability to score off the dribble and slash for Ohio State. So I think you have a better ability to space with Thornton and Mobley still there in the backcourt. You've got Noel coming in. You've got Tilly coming in. Those are floor spacers. And sure, Sean Stewart's not going to be a floor spacer for you. I'm fine with that because you're picking up more guys who can truly space the floor and have proven that they can do it and produce prior years. Aaron Bradshaw was a floor spacer. He didn't prove that he could produce at Kentucky. So I like the ability to space the floor. I like the pick and roll, the pick and pop, something Ohio State really struggled with last season. I think that Ohio State's going to be in a really good spot there on the pick and roll, pick and pop, being able to actually use that, use spacing, skip the ball, rotate the ball to the weak side, find an open three-point shooter because you're going from Evan Mahaffey to Christoph Tilly. You're going from Quez Glover to Brandon Noel, potentially being on that backside wing who can hit a 3. I like that a lot. So I think Ohio State's roster at this point is much better than last season, which means the expectations are going to be, of course, it already is, that Ohio State goes to the NCAA tournament. Not crazy to want that, right? That is not even close to the expectation for Ohio State. The expectation for Ohio State is to be competing for Big Ten titles, to be competing, to go in deep runs into the NCAA tournament, make a Final Four here and there, and I don't know, maybe play for a national title. They've played for a couple. Let's play for 1 or 2 more here in the next 10, 15, 20 years, whatever the case may be. But you should continually be winning 25, 30 games, anything like that. If you're Ohio State, combining the wins in the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament, all that, that's where you should be. I think this roster, the roster alone, gets you closer to that point than you were last year under Jake Diebler, which means, yeah, more pressure on Jake Diebler for sure. Again, I think Jake Diebler, I don't know if he's aware. I think if you give him truth serum and you get in a heart of hearts and you say, Jake, sit down. Come on, man. Let's talk. Are you coaching for your job this year? I would assume he'd probably say yes. That's not me saying anything other than that's my opinion of what he would say. I don't know if he would say that or not. I don't know if that's the case for Ohio State right now. But I can't see missing another NCAA tournament and being able to survive that. So that said, it's a big year for Ohio State, a big year for Jake Diebler, and I think he's making the right moves in the portal. Where does Ohio State go from here? There's one spot that I think that they could add, and that's another wing. That's one concern I have, is the 3 this year. If Devin Royal truly is going to play the 3 for Ohio State, that means that Sean Stewart starting at the 4, I guess, Noel coming off the bench at the 3, then you've got Colin White. If you've got a guy who's hurt, if you got a guy who's in foul trouble, I'm concerned about that wing spot, that small forward spot for Ohio State. That's a concern for me. So right now they're at 14 players. They have one open spot. Again, I don't expect anyone to go portaling at this point who's at Ohio State right now. I don't expect anyone else to leave. We will see and fill it out together, I'm sure. I wouldn't expect anyone to leave. I posted an article on Sunday, which some people took and ran with and said, hey, he said get a load of this guy. He said Ohio State's only going to add one more player. Since we're here, let's find exactly. I'm just going to tell you exactly what that article says, and you can say what you want, okay? Here's what I said. Sorry, doing some scrolling. Where are we here? Come on. All right. This is the exact sentence. Regardless of who they get, Ohio State is more likely to sign one more player out of the portal rather than two. I did not say Ohio State's only going to sign one player. The roster is set after this signing of Noel. Never said that. If you're seeing people say that, just point them to the article. You can screenshot it. I did it once. Just screenshot and send it to him. Say, hey, that's not what he said. Now, what I'm not saying either is that Ohio State is definitely going to have two players. What I've been told multiple times is that they may have one, they may have two. It's up in the air. There's nothing definitive. I know, Hoops Insider, if you're in on that, if you believe in him, some do, some don't. I can tell you, yeah, he does know some stuff. It is true, and I'm not going to publicly say that he doesn't know what he's doing. I guess if he didn't know what he's doing, I wouldn't publicly talk about him either. But Hoops Insider, look, he said Ohio State's definitely going to have at least two more players. At this point, I have not been told Ohio State's definitely going to add two more players, or I guess one more player after Noel. That's not what I've been told. It may happen. It may not. I don't think that Camden is going to be a guy that Ohio State is after at this point. However, he does fit the mold of a wing with three-point shooting ability. So it could happen. At this point, some things would need to change in order for that to be a realistic probability for Ohio State. They've got 14 on the roster now. They may enter the season with 14. They may enter the season with 15. We shall see. All right. If you've listened to or watched this entire show, please like the video on YouTube. Should have said that at the beginning. That was a blunder on my behalf. Please like it twice. Just go create another Gmail or something and like it twice for my blunder. Okay? I don't want to pay for it. I think you should. It's your fault, not mine. Like the video if you haven't already. If you're on podcast, give the show a 5-star review. If you haven't done that, and just check it out. Views from the Shot podcast.substack.com. It's linked in the Spotify, in the Apple. It's linked in the YouTube, all that stuff. So get there with one click and just check it out. You don't even have to subscribe. You don't have to subscribe. Just check it out, see if you'd like it. And then you can subscribe if you would like. All right. Appreciate you listening, watching today's show. If you have made it this far, means a lot to me. We'll continue to cover Ohio State over this transfer portal window. Are they done? Are they not? We will find out together. Until next time, I will shut up before you shut me off.